This story is about living with a ghost, or an area being programmed by a set of something supernatural. So before you live in an environment or apartment, it's better for you to pray so as to avoid supernatural beings. In the neighborhood of Silver Oaks, perfection isn't just encouraged but enforced. Every lawn is trimmed to exactly 3 inches. Every mailbox is painted the same shade of forest green. Driveways are spotless, sidewalks uncracked, trash bins aligned with military precision. Even the trees look rehearsed, their branches trimmed into identical shapes. Nothing is out of place. At least, nothing except my neighbor, Mrs. Gable. Mrs. Gable is 82 years old, yet she moves with unsettling accuracy. Every morning at exactly 7:01 a.m., she steps onto her porch and picks up the newspaper. At 8:14 a.m., she waters precisely 12 tulips, never 13, never 11. At exactly 12 p.m., she sits on her porch and eats a ham sandwich on white bread. She never looks left. She never looks right. She never blinks. At first, I admired her discipline. People in Silver Oaks love routines, but routines sometimes slip. People hesitate, scratch their faces, adjust their posture. Mrs. Gable never did, not once. Out of growing unease, I began timing her. I used my phone, a stopwatch, even my laptop clock. She was never off by more than a millisecond. If a bird landed on her lawn, she didn't react. If a car backfired or a dog barked, she didn't flinch. Her movements repeated perfectly, day after day, like a pre-recorded animation. The neighbors didn't notice, or maybe they didn't care. In Silver Oaks, anything that fits the pattern is considered normal. Eventually, curiosity turned into dread, and dread made me interfere. At 11:58 a.m. one afternoon, I walked onto Mrs. Gable's porch and placed a small orange traffic cone directly on the chair where she always sat. The color felt violently wrong against the beige perfection of the neighborhood. I hid behind my hedges and waited, my pulse pounding. At exactly 12 p.m., Mrs. Gable stepped onto the porch with her sandwich. She didn't acknowledge the cone. She didn't slow down. She sat down and passed straight through it. Her body didn't move the cone. The cone didn't crack or bend. Her dress didn't ripple. She simply occupied the same space, as if the object didn't exist. The air around me went cold, sharp enough to sting my lungs. I stepped closer. "Mrs. Gable," I whispered. She didn't respond. She took a bite of her sandwich. But instead of chewing, I heard something mechanical, like magnetic tape being rewound inside a machine. A long, metallic whine that vibrated through my teeth. I reached out and touched her shoulder. My hand didn't meet flesh. It pressed against something smooth and hard, like frozen glass. Then Mrs. Gable stopped chewing. Her head didn't turn. Her entire upper body rotated toward me in one stiff movement. Her face fractured into tiny squares, flickering between her wrinkled skin and a bright neon blue light underneath. "Observation noted," she said. It wasn't her voice. It was hundreds or maybe thousands of voices layered together, speaking in perfect synchronization. "Error detected in local simulation," it continued. "Refreshing Sector 4. Suddenly the neighborhood vanished. For a fraction of a second, I stood in an endless white void. Stretching into infinity were rows upon rows of Mrs. Gables, all identical, all seated, all eating ham sandwiches at the exact same moment. None of them blinked. Then everything snapped back. I was standing on my porch. Mrs. Gable was in her yard, watering her tulips. I checked my phone, and found it was 8:14 a.m. I checked my watch also for confirmation, and it was 8:14 a.m. I tried to leave Silver Oaks. The neighborhood gate was locked. When I walked down the road beyond it, the street curved unnaturally and led me straight back to the cul-de-sac. The houses never changed. The sky never shifted. The sun never moved. I don't know how long I've been trapped here. It feels like years. But the time never changes. It's always 8:14 a.m. Mrs. Gable is always watering those same 12 tulips. Sometimes I try to talk to her. Sometimes I scream. Every time, she slowly turns her pixelated face toward me and says, "Observation noted." Lately, I've noticed something worse. When I stare at my hands for too long, they flicker just for a moment, like a bad render correcting itself. I'm starting to wonder if I was ever supposed to leave this sector at all. I live in what landlords optimistically call a studio apartment, which is really just a concrete box with plumbing and a window. Everything is close together. The bed is 3 steps from the stove. The bathroom door almost touches the fridge. And the walls are thin enough that privacy is mostly a suggestion. In places like this, you learn your neighbor's habits whether you want to or not. The man who lived to my left was listed only as Unit 4B. I never saw him in the hallway. Never passed him on the stairs. Never heard him through the wall. For the first 6 months of my lease, there was nothing. No television noise. No phone calls. No footsteps. Not even the subtle sounds people make without realizing it. Like no coughing, no shifting furniture, no water running at night. It was less like living next to a quiet person and more like living next to a sealed room. At first, I thought I was lucky. Silence is rare in buildings like this. But over time, it started to feel wrong. Silence that perfect doesn't feel peaceful. It feels intentional. About 6 months in, the silence finally broke. It began with a scratching sound coming from inside the wall. It wasn't frantic like an animal trapped in the drywall. It was slow and deliberate, like someone dragging a fingernail across wallpaper, stopping, then starting again. The sound followed me. When I moved into the kitchen, it shifted to the kitchen wall. When I went into the bathroom, it appeared behind the tiles. No matter where I stood, it stayed close, always just on the other side, as if something knew exactly where I was at all times. I tried to rationalize it. Old buildings make noise, pipes expand, walls settle, but none of those explanations followed you from room to room. One night, tired and angry, I pressed my ear against the wall, determined to finally catch him in the act. But the scratching stopped immediately. What replaced it was worse. I heard a wet, rhythmic pulsing. It sounded like a massive heartbeat submerged in something thick and warm. The vibration traveled through the wall and into my skull. Then the drywall itself, or the unknown man, spoke. Don't know what voice out that time. The voice didn't echo through the room. It vibrated directly into the wall, like the sound was inside my bones. Is the skin thick enough today, David? The voice said. I froze because my name is David. I didn't answer. I stepped back slowly, my chest tight, my pulse racing. I barely slept that night, listening for any sound at all, afraid of what might come next. The next morning, I noticed a small bulge in the wallpaper. It was about the size of a marble, barely noticeable unless you knew where to look. I told myself not to touch it, but I later touched it anyway. It was soft. It shifted slightly under my finger, like a knuckle flexing beneath skin. Over the following days, more bulges appeared. Dozens of them. They weren't random. They formed a pattern, like two near the top, one below, a curved line beneath them. It took me too long to realize what I was seeing. What they formed was a face. Panicking, I called my landlord and claimed there was mold growing inside the wall. When he arrived, he took one look at it and went pale. He didn't argue or inspect anything further. He mumbled something about calling a specialized crew, left immediately, and never contacted me again. That night, the wall began to leak. A thick, translucent fluid seeped through the bulges, smelling faintly of ozone and spoiled milk. The wallpaper peeled back on its own. Behind it wasn't wood or insulation. It was muscle. It was raw, red muscle fibers pulsed where the wall should have been, flexing and contracting as if breathing. That's when I understood the truth. My neighbor hadn't been living in his apartment. He had become it. Unit 4B wasn't a room anymore. It was a living organism. The bulges pushing into my wall were sensory organs, pressing through the drywall to experience my side of the building. My movements, my heat, my presence. The heartbeat grew louder. David, the voice groaned. I need more room to breathe. I need your side. The wall bulged inward. Wooden studs snapped like dry twigs. In the center of my living room wall, a vertical slit opened, 3 feet tall. It wasn't a mouth in any normal sense. There were no teeth. Instead, hundreds of small, finger-like tendrils reached outward, grasping blindly at the air. I didn't think. I grabbed my keys and ran. I didn't pack clothes. I didn't look back. I lived in a hotel for a month before the city quietly decommissioned the building. The official report blamed a rare structural fungus. They were lying, because I knew that wasn't a fungus, but a human being, that is, being sacrificed or carry experiment on. Since then, I live in a house with thick stone walls now. I don't share walls with anyone, and I never want to live next to muscle ever again. I moved into the Willow Creek subdivision because I was desperate for peace. After years of apartment living, noisy neighbors, and constant traffic, I wanted something quiet and predictable. Willow Creek promised exactly that. Every house looked the same. Beige siding, white trim lawns, and identical driveways. The kind of place where nothing unexpected ever seemed to happen. All except the house directly across from mine. It belonged to a man named Mr. Henderson. At first, there was nothing outwardly strange about him. He was polite, almost overly so. He waved every time we saw each other, smiled during brief conversations, and never complained about anything. He blended in perfectly during the day. At night, though, Henderson became something else entirely. Every single night, without fail, from exactly 11 p.m. until 4 a.m., Henderson Will stood in his front yard holding an industrial-grade power drill. The sound carried through the entire street, a sharp, rhythmic whir that never changed tempo. He wasn't building a deck. He wasn't fixing a fence. He was drilling 3-inch drywall screws straight down into the ground. One by one, he worked slowly and methodically, crouching low, pressing the drill into the soil, and driving each screw until only the head remained visible. Then he moved a few inches and did it again. He covered every blade of grass with the same care, like he was following a blueprint only he could see. At first, the neighborhood treated it like a joke. In the group chat, people posted messages like, "Henderson's working late again," or shared blurry photos taken through bedroom windows. Some people joked that he was starting an underground bunker. Others said he was probably just eccentric. But weeks passed, then months. Henderson never missed a night. Eventually, his lawn stopped looking like a lawn at all. The grass disappeared completely, replaced by a solid, shimmering field of metal. Thousands of screw heads reflected porch lights and moonlight, turning his yard into a flat, gray surface that looked unnatural, almost liquid. Then he moved on. He began climbing ladders and drilling screws through the leaves on his trees, fastening them directly to the branches. He screwed his mailbox shut so it could no longer open. He drilled into the siding of his own house, bolting it into the studs until the wood cracked and sap leaked out like blood. That's when I decided to talk to him. One afternoon, I walked across the street and knocked on his door, fully intending to be polite. Henderson answered almost immediately. He smiled, but this time I noticed his hands. They were raw and bleeding, skin torn from constant friction with the drill. Before I could speak, he leaned closer and whispered, "The earth is loose, Marcus." His eyes weren't focused on me. They were fixed on the sky above the houses. "It's starting to drift," he said softly. "If we don't bolt it down, gravity won't hold. We'll all just float away." I laughed. I told myself he was joking. I told myself I was overreacting. That night, I woke up to a sound that wasn't a drill. It was a hammer. I rushed to my bedroom window and looked outside. Henderson wasn't in his yard. He was standing in my driveway, hammering nails straight through my car tires and into the asphalt below. I reached for my phone to call the police, but something felt wrong beneath my feet. The floor of my bedroom felt uneven. I placed a pen on my nightstand and watched it roll off on its own. My stomach dropped. I looked outside again. The entire street was tilting. The houses, the road, the trees, and everything leaned at a sharp angle, like the neighborhood was sliding off the surface of the planet. Everything except Henderson's house. His home stood perfectly level, anchored deep into the bedrock by thousands of screws. "Bolt it down, Marcus," Henderson screamed from my driveway. His face was twisted with terror. "It's happening." Then the hammering stopped. The world went silent. I felt weightless. For a brief moment, I saw relief flood Henderson's eyes. Then my house and every other house on the street lifted gently off the ground. Some people are thinking he is mentally ill, which I agree to it.